movie that I'm going to talk about today is one of the more obscure movies that I own. In fact, it was only released on DVD about 2 years ago, I think. It's a movie that, after its theatrical release, was never on VHS or DVD until pretty much 2 years ago, I think. And the movie is Windows from 1980. It was a very controversial movie when it came out. It raised a lot of hype, and the plot is it's about a woman named Emily Hollander who is, and it's never really confirmed, she is either attacked, assaulted, or raped in her apartment, and the man who raped her was actually hired by her neighbor, a psychotic lesbian, to assault her in the hopes that it would turn her off from men and come to her. And it's a thriller based entirely around that plot. This movie is a bad movie, but unlike Blade Trinity, Blade Trinity just pissed me off. It just gritted my patience. Windows, I'd say Windows is more laughably or interestingly bad. Like, some scenes are bad enough that they'd be worthy of Mystery Science Theater 3000. Other scenes are just perplexing, like, what the fuck was going through the director or the writer's head when they made it? And the movie was controversial when it came out because, obviously, with a plot like that, people will accuse it of being homophobic. But when I watched it, I didn't really feel it was homophobic. Like, it was a standard psychotic stalker movie about someone who's stalking another person who they think they're in love with, and the other person doesn't love them back, or they just don't know they're being stalked. And it wouldn't be any different if it was a man stalking this woman or a woman stalking this man. Like, it's a generic plot that's been done many times. And the fact that the character is a lesbian just, it's not really acknowledged. Like, there's not a lot drawn to the fact that she is a lesbian. It just has her be a crazy stalker who goes after someone, and it's something that wouldn't be any different if you just put the other gender in there. And like, people think this is meant to represent all lesbians. I don't think it does, because like I said, it's just like another stalker movie that wouldn't be any different if it was a man, and this character does not represent all lesbians. It's just this one particular crazy character. And even then, it's a bad enough movie that you can't really take that aspect of the film that seriously. Like, this movie, it was very badly made. Like, badly directed, given a lot of... Not all the dialogue is badly written, but it was poorly directed, and the direction that the actors followed, like their deliveries, the way the scenes are kind of edited at times, it just... It's so awkward and just not good. And the movie was directed by someone who actually had talent. Gordon Willis, who passed away about a year ago. He was the cinematographer for the Godfather trilogy. And he was actually nominated for an Academy Award for his work on The Godfather Part 3 and a movie called Zelig from 1983. And it's obvious that his talent was in cinematography, and he should have just stayed there. A lot of people who have seen this very obscure film have the same opinion, and I read that Gordon Willis, he talked about how he didn't really like being a director, like he didn't want to deal with actors coming to him asking him for direction, which makes you wonder, why did he direct this if he didn't like directing or doing what a director is supposed to do. He just didn't do a good job, but he did good jobs on other movies, but here he was just and just take a look at this cover. And I don't know if you can read the tagline, but it's "Somebody loves Emily too much." And that's a silly tagline. It's like something you'd see on the cover of a bad comedy. And this movie, like, it took 34 years for it to finally get a DVD release. And this DVD release isn't even all that great, because if you see here, it says limited edition collection, and the DVD itself is not manufactured on the proper technology for good quality DVDs. This is a DVD-R DVD, like just something you could pop in the player maybe and record off of. Aside from this cover, which doesn't have a lot going for it, the back just looks so generic and cheap. Like a public domain movie, but I don't think this was public domain, just it's a bad movie that took so long to come out, and I got it because I like watching all types of movies, and movies that are considered horrible can sometimes surprisingly come off looking very great. Like another film that was controversial in 1980 that dealt with gay subject matter was Cruising with Al Pacino. That movie, both Windows and Cruising got a lot of Razzie nominations. And Windows deserved it, but Cruising I really like because it's a gritty, edgy, intense film that pushed the boundaries back in 1980 and possibly now for its graphic sex and violence. This movie has pretty much This movie doesn't have the edge or the grittiness that you would expect from a movie about a psychotic lesbian stalker who has the woman that she thinks she's in love with raped. Like, the opening scene comes off as a rape scene, and that scene is actually very intense. Okay, let me go back to the beginning. The film opens with a pretty cool looking shot of a tunnel with sort of neon spirals in it, and the credits start there, and after seeing that cool image, we then get some pretty bad performances that are supposed to be a serious scene, but it just comes off looking just poorly acted. And the actors in this movie, some of them are generally known as good actors. The character Emily Hollander, she's played by Talia Shire, who many people who love movies will know from The Godfather as Connie Corleone, and Rocky as Adrian. And Talia Shire, she can be both ugly and pretty. Like, as Connie in The Godfather, she starts out looking kind of meek and can't do much, and then gets a bit stronger and has more confidence. And in Rocky, she came off early as the awkward Adrian, and then she got stronger and had more life and personality. In Windows, she carries the awkward and sensitiveness that you would see in the early stages of the character Adrian. In Windows, she kind of carries that, and this movie I don't think would insult any gay person, but I think it would insult rape victims, because rape is a horrible thing, and actors who can portray the trauma that comes with being raped are very talented. They do spectacular jobs sometimes. But Talia Shire in this, I don't know if it's the director or if she was having a bad day. When she portrays her character after the assault, she does try to act traumatized and hurt, but she does such a horrible job acting like this has happened to her. She does a bad job trying to cry, and her delivery at first is bad. Like, I was thinking, oh, like, is she gonna carry this annoying, just bad performance? Like people who've been raped, like characters in movies who've been raped, they carry an edge and they cry and they're going through a lot because it's a horrible experience. But doesn't come off as someone who's been raped. It comes off as just like it's like a little kid trying to act like, and little kids are mostly not good at acting. But as the film goes on, Talia Shire, she actually, like her character, like, or at least she as an actress, she starts to act better in the role, like, make the character not so, she acts good, like, she can be a little annoying, but mainly she acts bad in the beginning. And as the film goes on, her character is still fragile, but she acts better. And as I said about how this film just doesn't have the edge that a movie with this plot should have, the opening rape scene is intense, like it's disturbing. It involves her being threatened with a knife, it being poked a little in her mouth, and you get the feeling that she is raped. Like, they don't show it graphically. Like, there really isn't any graphicness in this film at all. There's no real graphic violence, and later, when she tells the police what happened, she never says she was raped, and you're led to think, the way the film presents it, it comes off as she was just asked to moan like she was having sex with a knife on her. And I'm like, wait, so that wasn't a rape scene? And this film does not have an edge to it. There is one effective scene, mute and then unmute when I hold this up again. There is one effective scene involving a dead cat. I'll leave it at that. And I don't think this film doesn't say it has a rating on this box. And I think if it was going to be anything, it'd be PG, because this film doesn't have a lot in it. I don't think there's really any swearing in this movie. Like, with a film like this, you expect there to be swearing, like, from the characters, the women characters, the police. I think there might have been a few bitches in there, the word bitch, but there really isn't any swearing at all. And it never goes into just the darker territory. At times, this movie, it feels kind of, at half the time, it feels like a made-for-TV movie. But then again, made-for-TV movies actually have more intensity or graphic material than this poorly made flick. And the other half of the time, it feels kind of like a movie on not, like I said, a made-for-TV movie. The other half feels like a movie that was edited to be shown on TV. And it'd have to be like a really it feels like, imagine like a Brian De Palma film that had all the graphic violence and sex, and it was edited to be shown on the Disney Channel. That's kind of what this feels like, this whole movie, as itself, as its real self. If this movie had been given to maybe a better director or writer, like Brian De Palma, maybe it could have worked, because this plot kind of seems like it'd be up his alley. But either way, and a better writer maybe, because this film just fails on a ton of levels. There is nothing in this, like, there's not even any sex or nudity. There's no ass, there's no tits, there's no cunts, and not surprising, there's no dicks. This film doesn't have anything. This does not merit an R rating. At least from what I remember. I don't remember everything that I saw right off the bat. Just, this movie is so tame, surprisingly tame for the subject material. And the stalker character, Andrea Glasson, that's the name of the stalker. And I'm not spoiling anything when I tell you this, because in the movie, it's kind of, they, like, even this picture here, this picture reveals who the stalker is. Like, they don't make it a mystery. This cover suggests a mystery, but no, this can reveal it right away. The stalker character, Andrea, is played by Elizabeth Ashley. I haven't seen a lot of her work, and I've seen her only in a few things, and she's kind of a little bit annoying, but some people say she can be good. Elizabeth Ashley does not go the full mile in playing a stalker who thinks they're in love with the person they're stalking. She comes off like she plays an obsessed character. She has an edge at times. Like, she can come off as intimidating at times. Well, in this movie, in real life, she would not be. But there's no real setup or motivation as to why she's so obsessed. Like, we don't see any scenes of her with Talia Shire prior to the assault scene, and then it's revealed pretty much right after that Elizabeth Ashley's character, her neighbor who appears to be nice, who already had a suspicion set up in her opening scene, is the person who's really responsible, who hired the man to attack her. There is no build-up, there's no establishment, they just jump into it, and right away they just make her an obsessed nut. And I don't really buy her as a stalker, because, like, this film badly portrayed the idea of someone who's obsessed with someone else. Kind of like the 2010 movie The Roommate, which was also about a woman being obsessed over another woman. In this movie, it feels like they're going for a storyline that has either been done before or someone thought up, and it feels like it's like the director or somebody, the people filming this, took like a Xanaxes before they shot it. They're not really putting their full effort into making it look realistic or scary. They're just like, do this, and they're like, okay, and she tries to give. She just says her lines at times. She does try to act crazy, but I just don't buy her as a stalker, and I don't buy her as someone who's in love or thinks they're in love or is truly obsessed. She just kind of goes through the performance. Like, when she has to act crazy, she tries to act crazy, but not convincingly or seriously enough for me to feel truly scared. And an interesting fact that is kind of eerie, Elizabeth Ashley was actually raped in 1977, 3 years before this movie came out. So I wonder, what was it like for her? I wonder what it must have been like for her to do this kind of movie with this storyline. Like, it's not graphic, but I wonder what it must have been like for her to do this movie and have this kind of content. And I doubt it, but could be. Maybe that led to an uncomfortableness in the performance. I'm probably just thinking too hard, but it's a eerie fact to know. And the only actor in this movie who I feel does a legitimately good job, gives a great performance, does the whole thing right, does his part right, is Joe Cortez. And I don't really know him. I'd never really heard of him until I saw this movie. He honestly gives a very good performance. He plays a character named Bob, Lafrono, who is the cop investigating Talia Shire's attack. His character, Bob, is kind of the best character in the movie. Like, he comes off as a professional cop that does everything right, and the way he talks to Talia Shire after she's been assaulted or raped, he comes off as a genuinely good, nice guy who knows how to talk to victims, and he comes off as the right person to talk to people so soon after such a horrible experience. I got a little iffy with him as the film went on because partway into the movie, Bob goes to Emily to talk about how she's doing, and they play that lovey romance theme, and I'm like, are they gonna have him be involved with her? Because I'm thinking, up until now he's been a very professional cop, and I'm thinking, no, this is not professional, and I agree, like, this is a bad movie, unrealistic, so, yeah, the one realistic thing in it, they probably, I guess, shouldn't be surprised they fucked that up, but after I got over that initial reaction, these two characters, the cop and the victim, they do become a couple, and despite my initial thoughts about them going that route, which I feel is just not fitting of how I initially thought of his character, there's scenes afterwards, like him being with her and her taking a chance with them. I thought they were actually a pretty nice couple. Like, he's understanding, he's sensitive, he cares, and he is protective, and she likes him, and she trusts him, and I thought those scenes were very good, and him in general, he is the best character, and Joe Cortez gives the best performance in this whole shitty movie. But it's not enough to save this film or make it good. This is still a bad film. Talia Shire and Elizabeth Ashley and director Gordon Willis and the writer of this film, Barry Siegel, and the producer, Mike Lobel, they all got Razzie nominations, and not surprisingly, Gordon Willis never directed another film again. He was the cinematographer for many films after this, including Godfather 3, but he never directed, and Barry Siegel, this is the only movie he ever wrote and the only movie he has any credit on the IMDb. Look it up, you'll see Barry Siegel never worked again. Sad, but yeah, bad movie, and when your first movie fails horribly, it's hard to get more work. I think the setup for this movie was good because a psychotic lesbian stalking a woman, trying to get her to love her, doing all sorts of horrible things, making her life hell, trying to get her to come to her. That's a unique plot, and I guess that's another reason I got this, because I like movies with unique storylines that are generally not done that often. The plot for this movie had potential, because even though I'm pretty sure there have been other movies with plots of a woman stalking another woman because she thinks she's in love with her or she's sexually attracted to her, I'm pretty sure there are other movies that have been done with that plot, but this movie had an interesting idea because when you hear it, of a woman hiring a man to rape the woman she wants, that's a pretty unique plot. I don't think that's been done before, and it's a shame that a movie like this, when it handles a subject matter like that. Does it so terribly because it's like the only one with that plot line. And I like movies that have plot lines like that aren't generally done that often. Like, yeah, like lesbian stalking and terrorizing another woman, and a woman raping a man. Those are plot lines that are not generally done that often, and I'm interested in finding movies with those plot lines to see how they're done, to see if they're done exploitatively or if they're taken seriously. And this movie is very... it's just bad. It's not a good serious film because it's so horribly made and it just doesn't act like it takes itself seriously, or it was on, as I said, Xanax while shooting it. And it fails as the plot for an exploitation movie because there's no real violence, as I said, and there ain't no nudity or sex. But I've mentioned some of the good stuff, like, because as I said with Blade Trinity, even when a movie's bad, I look out for anything that's good and I give credit where credit is due. I'm gonna talk about the ending, and if anyone actually cares to not know the ending, press mute and unmute when I hold this up again. This film is 90 minutes and it kind of just goes by just like that because it's so bad and yet so enjoyable at times. And you're just like, it just goes by. Like, normally a film like this could drag, but this one just goes by. And Talia Shire, she's a pretty good crier. Like, at the end, Elizabeth Ashley, she lures her into her home and she holds her hostage in her apartment with a knife. And she tells her to relax and she won't hurt her, and it fades away to the next day. And at first I thought they were going to go the route of her forcing her to have sex with her, like actually go the route of lesbian rape, which I thought would have been interesting and could have added to the dramatic effect, because like, rape is traumatizing and horrible no matter how they portray it, man or woman, either way. And it would have just been interesting to see a movie that has that done. And it has been done before, but the next day, she's like, we spent the whole night together. I didn't hurt you or do anything to you. And I'm like, wait, that really nothing? Like, you spent the whole night just holding a knife at her and just staring at her or something? Like, or did you talk? Because I don't think they talked, because Talia Shire is still nervous and quiet. I just thought, like, what a fucking cop-out. I just, like, you had an opportunity to go a route that's rarely gone in most movies, and you didn't do it, and you didn't really take a chance or go fucking anywhere with it. I thought just wasted fucking opportunity. But I will say this, the scenes of Elizabeth Ashley at the end holding the knife on Talia Shire and forcing her to stay with her, just trying to get her to be with her, they are very intense. Like, they are actually, this is actually the most intense part of the whole fucking film, and it's actually the most well done part. They do a good job. Talia Shire has the fear and the horror of anyone in this situation. It's the only good part, but then they have one more ending scene and go back to shit. That is the most intense and well done part of the film as far as thriller scenes. And I guess if I have any final thoughts on this, it'd be two things. I think Gordon Willis was trying to be artsy in one scene, that is. It's where Talia Shire moves into a new apartment after being attacked in her old apartment. And she looks out the window, putting her hands on the glass, and the camera zooms away, and we see another shot fading in, and that's like a zoom in. And there's like 10 other different shots fading in at the same time, and it's kind of a headache. Like you see a shot that has two images from two different cameras that were filming something. This particular shot where she's looking out the window of her new apartment, there's like 20 or 10, like there's an uncountable amount of images. It's just all going in there, cramming in there, and it's confusing, and it gave me a little bit of a fucking headache. Like it was, what? Just, I had to mention that. And, oh yeah. This is a scene that just made me laugh that should have been intense, like they were trying to be, but they failed horribly, the people who made this. Elizabeth Ashley early in the film visits Talia Shire at her old apartment as she's moving out, and the attacker that Elizabeth Ashley hired apparently has been hired to come back and try to re-attack her, and Ashley beats him out of the apartment to try and, I guess, win Shire over again. And the guy has his arm in the door. There's like a keychain. 1980. The guy has his arm in the door just grabbing, and then Ashley runs right at the door and she just slams into it with her shoulder, and she's like, eh, 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 eh. She just, and it's like a bad comedy sketch. It just comes off I just thought it was so stupid I had to laugh. This movie is bad, but it's not Blade Trinity bad, as in it didn't piss me off. It was funny at times, and other times it was weird. It just intrigued. It was interesting. Like, what the fuck am I watching? There were some good moments. Some of the actors gave better scenes than others. Joe Cortez, he was the best thing. And this movie is very obscure. I don't know how long it'll be on DVD, but it's available online in certain areas if you look hard enough. I say check it out just because every movie should be seen and everybody should have their opinion. And if you don't want to see this movie, then don't. I think it's bad, and if I had to rate this movie, I would give it 4.0 out of 10. Joe Cortez is very good in this movie, and it's not the worst, just unbelievably what the fuck bad, but it can be entertaining at times. I'll say this. I had a better time watching this than I did The Dark Knight. I hate The Dark Knight. I love Batman Begins. I just hate The Dark Knight. And it just wasn't the great film I thought it would be. This movie is fucking bad, but it was amusing enough that I enjoyed it, and it kept me interested to the end. I cared about what happened to the characters, and I wanted to say this for a while, and this is actually what I say about a movie that is generally considered bad. I either liked it better than The Dark Knight, or I enjoyed it better than The Dark Knight, and for this, I enjoyed this so much more than The Dark Knight. And, that's pretty much all I gotta say, and if you want to see it, go see it, buy the DVD. I think it's a little over $10, or watch it online if you can find it. I hope you've enjoyed this video.